Welcome guys, I'm back with another designer bathroom. Plenty going on in here, including tiling the ceiling. But luckily today in this video, I'm just going to show you how I tile this wet room shower tray. So just to quickly explain the deal with wet trays. So generally you'll get two different types. A linear type where the drain is like you see here, a long drain basically, and a square type drain. Both of these come in many different sizes and variations to suit different needs. The best types of wet trays over the years are what you see here. These are backerboard trays and go together as part of a system with your backerboard walls and floor outside of the tray. This keeps everything marinated and waterproof nicely. Backerboard is a great product to use as a substrate for tiles as they adhere to it very well, and it offers weight, water, movement and thermal solutions. So when you've got your tray installed, you'll finish up with tanking it around all the seams, corners and walls, so you end up fully waterproof. Wet trays have falls for the water built into them, and they always run from the edges of the drain to the edges of the tray, like you can see here. The falls are what allow the water to run back into the drain. So generally when tiling a tray with anything but mosaic tiles, you will need to cut these falls into your tiles, otherwise they won't sit correctly and the water won't fall properly. We call these envelope cuts. Now in my scenario here, you can see I have underfloor heating in the tray and on the floor, and you may think, why aren't the wires in the tray covered like the external floor? This is because if I self-level the wires, I will start destroying the pre-made falls in the tray. So I'll show you what I do with them a little bit later in the video. Where the self-leveling stops here is the end of the tray, and where the outside floor goes back to just being flat and level, which is quite important for a good finish. There will be a glass shower screen running along this tray edge. So a quick summary of wet trays there. Now let's jump into the tile setup. First, with any wet room, I would centre the tiles from the drain if possible. This is so visually all the envelope cuts look parallel and symmetrical, as this is the centerpiece of your floor and you want it to look good. Generally the tiling will look and work best with the tiles either side of the center line. If it doesn't, you can mark the center of the tile and go from that mark on the center line. I'm using 60 by 60 porcelain here, which I put either side of the center. I mark where the tray finishes and the tile will be cut through here around this line. Then I do a quick check to make sure the rest of the length works out okay. I also check the back wall, as if I can get the tile joints matching going up the wall, then that's a bonus. So I'm happy with the length, now onto the width. First I try a full tile on the front of the drain, and that doesn't work out too great, going back with a small cut. So then I try the full tile off the back wall. Either of these two options normally work out best with envelope cuts, with linear drains. And working off the back wall here works out pretty well. Next I'll just use a tile against the drain to see how square it is with the back wall. As believe it or not, trays aren't always put in square. It's not too bad, so I'll give it a few millimeters wiggle room, and then I can now start marking my first cuts. First I take a measurement for the tile to the front and back of the drain. So once I come to do my adjacent tile, they will be identical cuts. Then I put the tile back on my center line so I can get an accurate mark to the edge of the drain. This gives me the U shape I need to cut out for the drain. With my tape, I then transfer that mark onto the tile, and I will have to cut the envelope in the tile from here. Next, I mark my center line to the edge of the tray. As my full tile comes out of the wet tray area, it needs to be cut across this line. This is also the line where the shower screen will sit, and these are the two arrows that will be put back together once the tile is fixed. So before I can mark my first envelope angle, I need to split the tile where the tray finishes. I just do that on my Sigma cutter here. Now I've got my two pieces, I then just draw some accurate lines with my marks for removing the drain slot. I can also draw my first envelope here at the back, which is from the point of the drain to the point of the tile, just like this. If I scribe all these marks on my cutter, I can then just angle grind the envelope line and use the cutter to break the bits off with minimal cutting. I'll show you that in process now. So I'll scribe the drain lines like this, then I've just got two little grinder cuts to do and the rest will snap off on the cutter. I like to go in with the grinder on the point of the tile first, just to not obliterate the edge. If you lose a bit, it will be covered by the wall tiles, so it's not the end of the world on this cut. Then as you can see, I snap the other drain bits off, saving time and getting neater cuts. And I'm using my Bosch Slimline angle grinder here with a Boohoo diamond disc. So these are the first cuts done, and you can now see how they start to fit. And along this line of the tray cut is where the screen will sit. Next, I take another full tile and cut off the tray line the same as the first tile. Now I can place them and mark the main envelope cut. I spend a bit of time here making sure everything is square and in the right place, using spacers and my level. These envelope cuts going through the two tiles need to line up, otherwise they will look rubbish. Now, same as the back, the envelope normally needs to go from the corner of the drain to the edge of the tray. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. First, as my tray is 1.5 meters, so it's basically wall to wall, I want to make it just go over the two tiles, so 1.2 meters effectively, as the tiles are 60 centimeters. This will mean I don't have to cut through the third tile by the door. This is because visually I think it will look better with the layout of the room. Because the back cuts are only about 30 centimeters, it shouldn't affect the falls. I may just need to build up where the joints meet, as that's where the tray will naturally dip. To explain that a bit easier, I'll show you here. This is basically the envelope that I want to get rid of for it to look better. Then secondly, with the envelope cut, instead of going to the point of the tile, I'm going to come in 1 centimetre on each side. This is just from experience, it will probably break a bit, and this cut is fully visible. So by coming in a bit, I've got more chance of it coming off whole. And by just coming in by 1 centimetre, it won't affect the falls in the tray. I just mark and cut the L-shaped tile to complete the row. I make sure everything is square. Then I mark 1 centimetre in, and using my level, I draw the envelope line. Now I simply angle grind through the line. You can also scribe and snap this on your tile cutter, but you just have to bear in mind you're grinding the tile as of your joint in the envelope. When you are angle grinding the line, you are removing 2 millimeters from the blade, then replacing it with the 2 millimeter joint. So you just have to bear that in mind if you're matching a full tile up without an envelope cut in it. Once the tiles are cut, I just smooth up the edges with a 200 grit diamond block. And there we go, that's our first tile done. Now I grind the line on the next tile, place that in, and then place the rest of the row in and make sure everything looks good and straight. And already it's looking like a good decision to alter the tile line slightly on the tray for a better look. Next, I just repeat the process for the two adjacent tiles. I mark the width, I have the drain measurement, so both the tiles are the same. I draw my envelope lines and grind them out. So that is all the tray cuts pre-cut, and I'd really recommend doing it this way. Then you just have to fix them all in one go. Once we actually stick these down, we'll get everything marinated nicely. I then draw a spread line down the edge, and then I can start removing the tiles. I number each tile and place them so I don't get muddled up. Then I stack them safely out of the way. There's nothing worse if you spend all that time cutting and you hit one and chip it by accident. So earlier I said what I'd do with the wires in the tray. They need to be covered, A, so they don't move around, and B, so you don't damage them. So what I do is mix up some flexible flooring adhesive, Balflex 1 here, and using my grout float I will fill the wires as smooth as I can. By doing it this way you can run your float along the wires so you don't interfere with the shower tray falls, and then you're just filling up the gaps. This is generally a good technique whenever you're self-leveling wires, really, as tape doesn't always keep them down. And same as here, what I do is cover them and then come back the next day ready to work on them, or self-level them if I'm doing that. Okay, so it's the next day now and my adhesive has all set. Ideally, if you can, go over them twice, but as long as you're careful, once is fine. I lay my first two tiles down with some spacers and a level, then check that they are in the right place so I can draw a starting line to work to. This first row is the most important, so get that right and then you can just tile away off of it. Here I'm going to tile the tray first, but sometimes I will do the outside floor first if I'm using mosaic or different tiles. The most important thing is that you do it level and you judge the distance where the tray and the outer floor tiles meet, so it's a nice seamless finish. So again, using the Balflex 1, which is a really strong waterproof medium set flexible adhesive, I spread my first section using a 10mm notch trowel, trying to keep all the ribs going in the same direction. As these are a porcelain tile in an area that will get heavy use, I spread the back with a 6mm trowel in the same direction as the floor ribs. I want to make sure I have really good coverage and a strong bond in a wet room. So although just back buttering is sufficient, this is a more belt and braces method. Then it's a case of laying the first tiles down with a push and a wiggle to get a good connection and making sure there is no dip across the center point. Wet trays are actually level around the perimeter, and also your middle tiles should be level once your envelopes have been cut. Now it also depends how level the tray has been put in, and you're governed by the drain. That is your level. You want the tiles to finish symmetrically around it. I like my tiles to finish about 2mm above it for water flow and a silicone or grout joint along the trap. Most of these drains are all adjustable, so you can bring them up and down to suit different size tiles. Using my sponge, I keep everything as clean as I can so I don't have to go back over it, and I don't use level clips in a wet tray as I don't want them to interfere with the marination. I feel something like this is a bit more about feel and touch. You just want to check your first row, make sure it's square and you are happy before you continue. The outside cuts that go onto the normal floor, you ideally want to make sure they are level going down the tray line. If you don't have a glass screen, then these cuts and the rest of the floor, you'd put a fall on them so everything runs back into the wet tray. Now I'm happy my first row is good. I can go for a bigger spread and get the rest of the tiles down. Again, just taking my time to make sure I'm happy with the marination and adjusting where needed. Cleaning, adding spaces or wedges as I go. I make sure the back tiles run down nicely into the tray and that my cuts on the outside run level. Then once I've got them all down, I can use my level as a straight edge and make any final adjustments. And there we go. That's how the tile tray goes down. I'm really happy with how that's looking. Nice and even and symmetric, and that will have great water flow for the massive shower head above it. The rest is pretty simple from here. I can just tile the outside floor as normal, work into my tray cuts which are level to come off of, and we end up with something looking like this. I think for a small shower room that looks really stunning. Let us know what you think in the comments, guys. I hope this video gives you some good tips on tiling a wet tray. Like and subscribe if you like this content. It keeps me motivated to keep making more videos for you guys. If you want to see the tiling in the rest of this bathroom, then just click this link right here. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.